Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Welcome to An Hour to Kill, a podcast where we take an hour of your time talking about horror and we send it to the Red Room to be locked away for 25 years, only to be seen again. I'm your host, Dorian Adholic Brown, and I am joined once again by the immortal Damon DB Weathers. Damon, what's up, man?
Sorry, I was having a seizure. You said the Red Room, and I freaked out. I'm good. How are you?
It's a side effect of the Red Room, man. Even just mentioning it, I feel like, I don't know, there's like a vibe about it. It's just, you're going to get locked in there. It's creepy. I love it. It's so good. I'm so excited for this topic today. I've already spoiled it, but that's kind of the thing we do here. We have a very special guest here today. The kingdom of Moke Kingdom himself, the king, Mokey. Welcome to the show.
This must be the place where pies go to die. Thank you for having me, boys.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. And damn, now I want a good slice of cherry pie. I don't know about you guys. But
oh, yeah. I do have a cup of coffee with me right now.
Oh, cup of coffee and a pie? That would hit really hard right now. Yeah, if we haven't completely bashed you over the head with it, today's episode is going to be all about our favorite David Lynch movie. Now, yes, you might be out there saying, oh, Lynch doesn't make horror movies. And to you, I say you are wrong. Because as we'll get into when we talk about these movies, at least I certainly think so, there is no one better at making mundane things scary than David Lynch. Very much horror to me. So, and he's just one of the greatest, directors of all time, right? Like, come on. So, we are going to be talking about our favorite David Lynch movies. We've got 3 great movies here. We'll have our usual hour time limit as well. With this one in particular, I feel like this is going to be the most challenging one yet because these movies are all so fucking dense, but we will adhere to the time limit. So probably going to not cover quite everything we want to with these movies, but I have a feeling we'll get a good chunk of it in there, and that's all that matters. So as always, we're going to go in release order year. Damon, you picked the oldest Lynch movie, so tell us what you picked.
Well, I actually went with Blue Velvet. I had a few runner-ups. I was in between Firewalk with Me, Eraserhead, especially considering more on the horror side. I couldn't go pick Wild at Heart or Straight Story, although those probably could have worked. But yeah, I went with Blue Velvet. That one's always stuck with me the most.
That's a great choice. Blue Velvet is a fantastic movie. And honestly, I think you guys could have come to me with any pick as long as it wasn't Dune, which we're not going to get into. But you could have come with anything else, and I wouldn't have batted an eyelash. Like, just great movies all around. Mokey, what did you pick?
I picked Mulholland Drive, which is probably the basic bitch pick. I was really in between Mulholland or Inland, though. I love both those movies for very different reasons. I love pretty much every David Lynch movie that I have seen, but those two definitely stand out to me the most as like pure masterpieces,
No, I completely agree. And I think I think you nailed it. They're 2 incredible movies and for completely different reasons. I love them too. I did pick Inland Empire. And like you, basically, I just said to you guys, I was like, hey, whatever you end up picking, I'll probably pick the opposite. Because it really is that close to me. I think both of these movies are fucking masterpieces. I also gave a little bit of consideration to Twin Peaks Firewalk with Me as well. I gave some consideration to Lost Highway, which I also adore. And is of part of that trilogy of Lost Highway, Mulholland Drive, and Inland Empire. So really could have gone with a few different options, but Inland Empire was definitely the one that felt right to me. And those are our picks. So obvious thing, we are going to spoil these movies. I'm going to be honest with you though, in this case, it probably isn't as severe as some of the other ones because it's a Lynch movie. We're just kind of be throwing shit at wall and see what sticks here. He's notorious for not fucking telling anyone what's going on with his movies, which I love. But we're going to do our best to try to explain some of these or at least give a little bit of context. All right. So I think that's it. We're going to get the timer here ready. Damon, are you ready to go? Anything else?
My other runner-up, actually, I was flies ass hair close to picking Elephant Man, because I actually love Elephant Man, and between that and Blue Velvet, but I don't know, Blue Velvet just felt right for the show. But okay, I'm ready when you are.
No, agree. And Elephant Man's a classic too. I don't want to leave that one out. Great movie, and a really good performance from Anthony Hopkins as well there too.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Mokey, ready to go?
I am very ready. I'm very excited for this.
Stellar. All right. We are going to start the timer then now. Damon, take it away.
all right. Well, Blue Velvet, released September 19th, 1986, starring Kyle MacLachlan, who you see in a lot of David Lynch stuff, including the masterpiece Dune. Dennis Hopper and Laura Dern as well, who are also returnees. Laura Dern, she's been around a couple times. We'll cover her a little later. Blue Velvet's probably the most straightforward film he's made, next to Elephant Man in my mind, or next to Straight Story as well. But some fun facts about it. If you haven't seen Blue Velvet, like I said, we're spoiling it, so deal with it. Isabella Rossellini was actually naked under her velvet robe when she did the ritualistic rape scene. Something Dennis Hopper was not aware of until the camera started rolling, and his co-star just decided to, opened her legs to for him to kneel in between. The scene was actually the first time the two of them worked together too. So imagine meeting your coworker for the first time and having to go in between her legs. I'm sure that was fun, but it's Dennis Hopper, so I don't think he was fazed by it. But kind of I mean, it's King Koopa. But a quick roundabout about the movie. So Kyle MacLachlan stars as Jeffrey Beaumont. He's a college student who returns to his idyllic hometown, which is called Lumberton. He shows up. He's there to manage his father's hardware store after his father's hospitalized. One day, walking through a grassy patch of land on his way home, Jeffrey finds a severed human ear. Very Lynchian for you. After an initial investigation, the police detective, John Williams, advises Jeffrey not to speak to anyone about the case while the cops investigate further and do their job. Detective Williams also tells Jeffrey not to divulge any information about what the police know, because he gave him some info about what they found. Detective Williams's high school aged daughter, Sandy Williams, who is played by Laura Dern, actually finds Jeffrey and tells him what she knows about the case. She actually overhears everything in her father's office because her room is directly above it. She finds out that the case in general, the ear, it all tracks back to a nightclub singer named Dorothy Valens. She lives in an old apartment building in town near Jeffrey Beaumont's house. So of course his curiosity gets the better of him, and enlisting Sandy's help. Mind you, she's in high school, he's in college, so that's 1986. Nobody really cared. Jeffrey decides to find out more about the woman at the center of the case, Dorothy Valens. He decides to break into her apartment because, why wouldn't you? While she's at work, especially. Jeffrey ends up finding out this whole seedy underbelly of Lumberton. There's a whole world that he never expected to find that's associated with this town that some people know about, some people don't. And it's a world he truly doesn't understand. An allure of this world that keeps him wanting to figure out more. And despite the inherent dangers of being associated with the possible murder, he continues to dig. So he's kind of torn between this seedy underbelly world. He's torn between that and the prospect of a relationship with Sandy. The two they're obviously falling for each other. There's fireworks between them. But Sandy's also in a relationship with her high school star football player. So a lot of that comes back around to kind of bite him in the ass a little. Jeffrey also has a little bit of a physical thing with Dorothy Valens that gets in the way too. And in true Lynch fashion, everything is completely heightened and just completely weird. Some of the reasons why I like this movie, and I'll go back to kind of the straightforwardness of the film. Aside from, like I said, aside from Straight Story, no pun intended, this movie is probably one of the most straightforward simply because it is very cut and dry. He is trying to figure out what happened, where this ear comes from, uncovers a criminal underworld that has to do with drugs, and uncovers that these criminals they're psychopathic and they're holding Dorothy Valens' child hostage. And that's it. There's no hallucinations. There's no weird esoteric shit. As much as I love that, as much as I love Inland Empire and Mulholland Drive and Eraserhead, everything feels pretty explainable. One of the other big reasons I love this movie, and anybody should completely watch this movie, is Dennis Hopper. He's a fucking gem. Apparently, other actors that they approached to take this role or to even audition for it said that the character was just too vile and brash, and they were like, this guy's fucking crazy. We can't really. Of course, Dennis Hopper reads it and he feels like, this is me. This is me as an actual person. So he completely embodies the role. The character is completely unhinged. He's unpredictable. He's volatile. Every time he's in a room, you don't know what the hell is going to happen. And that actually makes him terrifying. That makes him more terrifying than a lot of traditional villains that you'll run into, just because you don't know where this could go. You've already seen him kind of rape her over the clothes. Oddly enough, I don't know if he like goes through the hole in the pants. Maybe I'm thinking too far into it, but either way, Dennis Hopper is a complete just scene stealer in this whole movie, whether it's him breathing through his oxygen mask or yelling how much better Pabst Blue Ribbon is than Heineken. He completely embodies the fucking role.
Just to interject for a second, I gotta say I don't blame other actors for turning this role down, because if I had to admit that I liked Pabst Blue Ribbon better than Heineken in a movie too, I don't know, I might turn that down myself. That's a steep hole to come back from, my friend.
And I guarantee Dennis Hopper that was probably real truth coming out from him. He's such a blast to watch, even if you are scared of him. And he's actually had a lot of stories. I tend to dive into a lot of these after I watch them, especially if I like the movie. And there's so many interviews with him where he talks about David Lynch being a weird guy and how the whole script is littered with profanity. And Dennis Hopper's character, I mean, every other word's fuck. And he said on set that David Lynch would point to the script and say, okay, say this word, but say it louder, say it longer, say it slower. He would give him direction on how to say fuck, but he wouldn't say the word fuck. So Dennis Hopper always thought he was really weird because, like, you can write it, but why can't you say it? And Lynch's response was always he didn't want to, the energy of the set and the tension was already all the way ramped up because he was there doing his character. But I digress. One of the other things that I love about this movie is it completely gives me Twin Peaks vibes. And of course, this is before Twin Peaks, and not because Kyle MacLachlan's in both, but you have this small, quaint town that's idyllic and white picket fenced, but there's the weird, seedy underbelly, and it's palpable. You can feel something is off. At first glance, it looks like this charming town. There's no, like I said, white picket fence. You're walking down the neighborhoods. There's kids playing. His dad owns a hardware store. Everybody knows everybody. But there's an uneasiness that just scratches at your brain, and something's off or something's going on behind the curtain. And I don't know if it's the sound design that David Lynch does, where there's just that like wild reverb that's just pumping through and real bassy. There's a diner, there's lounge singing, there's a seedy underbelly of crime. It's Twin Peaks. And the fact that he uses Jack Nance, who's the lead in Eraserhead, and he's also in Twin Peaks, just ties it all together for me. So something about it, I watched Twin Peaks actually before I had seen Blue Velvet years ago. And when I finally watched it, I was like, fuck, this just feels like Twin Peaks. I mean, the town's also called Lumberton, for hell's sake, but
it kind of feels like it kind of feels like Coop's origin story a little bit.
Yeah, right. Like, is this a prequel? Is this where he started and then he got into the FBI because of this? And only David Lynch can really hit that really just unnerving. And again, this isn't. I wouldn't consider this. It's a horror movie in certain respects, but I don't think it's as horror as I would consider Mulholland or Inland scarier to me, or more. Because of their atmospheres, the horror is a little more ratcheted up in those. But in here, I think it's not as ratcheted, but it's up there, and it really makes you feel kind of weird. And then with the juxtaposition of just the lush colors and how it's shot, it's very vibrant. And the velvet, whether it's the velvet or the red roses in town, and the really bright green in the grass, and it's just such a weird juxtaposition. And Brad Dourif is in it, which is pretty cool. A very small capacity, but
It is scary, but I think it's part of the reason why it's like thrilling is because it's like realistic. Like you said, there's no like esoteric bullshit. It's just kind of like Dennis Hopper is just like a guy that could very much be a real person that could like all this stuff feels within the realm of reality. So that kind of gives it a little more bite compared to like some of the other more like esoteric things in his other movies where it's like, okay, it's scary, but it's also kind of so like dream nightmare like, where this is more like the nightmare is actually real in front of you and you're staring it in the face.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, like you said, Dennis Hopper he's grounded in a sense. If for as ridiculous as he is, he could be real. He's not a dwarf talking backwards and being played in reverse in the Red Room. He's just scary in that capacity to me. It's really weird. But a couple of things I wanted to ask you guys, because I feel like I've always been really close to this, and I know I mentioned Elephant Man, so I may have actually shot myself in the foot. But would you say that this is Lynch's most I don't want famous isn't the word I'm looking for, but his most famous movie? Again, now that I think about Elephant Man or even Dune for the wrong reasons, I feel like Blue Velvet is so associated, and I hear more people having seen this than anything else of his, even common film goers.
Yeah, I think if you take Twin Peaks out of it, because I do think Twin Peaks is the most famous thing he's ever done, but obviously that's a TV series, and then you've got the movie two part of that. But if you take that out of the equation, I would say Blue Velvet's probably the one he's most widely known for. It's either that or I would say honestly either that or Mulholland, but Mulholland might just be more of a film nerd thing. What do you think, Mokey?
It's hard for me to say because I don't have like a objective time frame. I'm a resident youngin here, but my mom is a good litmus test, and my mom knows of Blue Velvet and knows David Lynch's name because of Blue Velvet. So I would say it had to have been at least when it released in the was that late 80s, right? Was it 86?
Yeah, 86.
Yeah.
Like
like
I can
release,
only
right?
that it was a big release. People talked about it, and I think that is definitely. I feel like people of that time probably remembered the chatter about Blue Velvet because I can imagine that when it like kind of dropped, it was a mini. You didn't have the internet age, but I'm sure if there was internet at the time, like people would be going crazy talking about fucking Dennis Hopper and Heineken and shit.
And it's post the Elephant Man. I mean, he got some good notoriety because of that. That was a big fucking deal. And it's actually post Dune. I'm surprised anybody gave him another movie after that.
Yeah, no shit. Back in 86 too, like this was a very weird movie to have as big a release as it did. And I feel like it definitely put him on the map there and was like, what the fuck is this movie? Like this movie's in theaters. Like, what are we watching right now? And it's funny too, because I say that this movie is like, it's like a gateway drug to Lynch, right? Like you're starting, you're smoking a little bit of weed here. You're just getting started with Lynch. You're smoking that weed. You're getting high. And then when you really want to start getting into the fucking meth and heroin, that's when you kind of go off into the Lost Highway, Mulholland Drive, Inland Empire Road. But yeah, this was my third time watching this movie, third or fourth. Funny enough, this is actually, if you take Dune out of the equation, I still think this is my least favorite Lynch movie. But I still gained a lot more appreciation for it, and like another time through, and I do love the movie. Like something's got to be at the bottom, and unfortunately, it's this one for me. But it's great, man. Like it's funny, it's easy to follow, which is a nice change of pace for Lynch. It's incredibly well acted. Dennis Hopper is just phenomenal in this entire movie. I really liked it.
No, so you have Dean Stockwell lip singing Roy Orbison. It's one of the most like uneasy fucking scenes to watch ever.
It's so good.
It's so good. Mokey, you're pretty positive on this movie too, right? Like you love this movie too. We're all in agreement.
I mean, I think I'm kind of in the same boat as you though. I haven't seen Dune, Straight Story, or Lost Highway. I keep meaning to watch Lost Highway, and I just keep putting it off. And then we started watching these, so I was focusing on rewatching these. But I will get to Lost Highway at some point. But yeah, like weirdly enough, it's just like in a sea of what I consider 9s and 10s. Like Blue Velvet is just at the tail end of that. I love them all, but it is, like you said, it is a really it's like an easy watch, and it's so gripping, and it's just it's tight. The 2 hour runtime just like flies by in kind of the best way. Um, you're really just kind of like glued to the screen because you want to watch it all go down, especially on that first watch, just because Lynch first watches are interesting with more like the weirder stuff, because I feel like you're just trying to like make sense of what's going on and just kind of like taking the vibes. But this feels more, I don't know, like you're just watching a very good movie play out in front of you. So I don't know.
No, I completely agree. 5 minutes left on this one, and I got to pose you guys a quick question here. What the fuck is with the chicken walk?
Incredible.
I was going there next. It was a chicken walk and the weird close up on the bugs in the grass. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And the story about the long tongue, like, I don't know, man. Like, there's just some classic Lynch weirdness in this movie that you could just, you see
shots.
the DNA, and it's great. It's so good.
I was going to say, just the shot of the blue sky with the white fence and the red flowers is, especially putting that on like the big old, clear OLED screen, it's a stunning shot. It's a stunning visual to open the movie with, especially compared to how kind of grimy the movie gets later on.
Oh, yeah. You have the Criterion too, right, Mokey?
Yeah, I got it. Shout out old Pablo. He or no, Ed sent me this one.
Oh,
Ed sent
me
his,
because it didn't make his illustrious shelf.
I gave it a very loving home. So thank you, Ed.
Nice.
Yeah, the cinematography, the colors in this movie, they're all fantastic. And how the fuck haven't we mentioned the GOAT himself, Angelo, as well? Another great fucking banger from him.
The score is great.
And we'll bring him up again during Mulholland, I'm sure. But fucking another amazing score. Rest in peace, Angelo. Like, just incredible. But yeah, Laura Dern and Kyle MacLachlan, great chemistry together. Love them in this movie together. I think they're great. They're weird. They're great. Also, Laura Dern looks like she's fucking 20 years older than she should be in this movie, but apparently, like, she's actually pretty close to the age. So I think she just looks old in general.
Yeah, I remember seeing that too, and I was like, "Wait, she's okay." It was a little weird. I thought she was much older than she is. Sorry, Laura Dern.
She kind of like looked the same though through like the next 2 decades after that.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Even like in Inland, she looks
right,
super young. So, or I mean, like the same age she is in this. So,
one other thing I want to juxtapose here and kind of bring up, because we're going to get into it in Mulholland, but I feel like Blue Velvet's a good litmus test of where maybe David Lynch was with the industry at this point, because we kind of get a happy ending here. Obviously, she gets her kid back, everything works out great for everyone, and then you get to like the Mulholland Drive years and the Inland Empire years where he's just kind of pissy, I think, and miserable and kind of hates everyone. And we start getting a lot more of the depressed, dark stuff from Lynch, but this was nice. You get a nice happy ending here, and everything works out pretty good.
Yeah, he really gets into that weird, like, especially when you look at those movies are about actresses and Hollywood, and kind of behind the veil of how bad shit is in Hollywood, in the town, and the industry, and how it works. And yeah, I think you're right. I think he definitely sours on a lot of it as it goes.
All right, we got 2 minutes, so final thoughts on Blue Velvet, Damon?
I'm just going to say, fuck Heineken. Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Oh, man. I can't. Heineken's so much better. Fucking Hopper. Mokey, final thoughts? Anything you want to bring up for this great movie?
Yeah. I would fuck anything that moves.
We could literally just spend an hour quoting Dennis Hopper, I think, in this movie. Like, every fucking word that comes out of his mouth is incredible. It's great. It's so good.
No, I'll shout out O Pueblo, because he had the Dennis Hopper gas mask PFP. That was like the OG PFP I saw him as in the LSM Discord. So I know he's a big fan.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, if we're closing this section out with Dennis Hopper quotes, then we got to go, "Baby wants to fuck." And with that,
Oh, rest in peace, the man. Sorry.
I know, man. There's so I'm just sad. This movie's so incredible, and like I said, least favorite Lynch movie, but it just goes to show you what a fucking incredible filmography this guy has. Just great shit. All right, so we're gonna put a pin in Blue Velvet, let the night dance away, and we're gonna move on now to what a lot of people consider one of the greatest movies of all time. And that's Mulholland Drive. Mokey, take us away.
I might be one of those people that considers that, and I could argue it very much at length. But yeah, so Mulholland Drive, it released on October 8th of 2001, which I didn't know it came out in October until I just read it right now, and that seems like a banger, like October movie, because it's like not. There are some horror elements here, but it's a very bright movie for the most part, and it's very it's not as horrific as Inland, but I could definitely see it still kind of having the good spooks for the time period. Directed by David Lynch, obviously. Starring Naomi Watts in probably her best performance that I have personally seen.
Absolutely.
She puts on a fucking clinic this entire movie, and I will bring up a few choice scenes in which she does. And then Laura Herring is the other female lead. And then Justin Theroux. So it's pretty much. I mean, there's a bunch of people. There's a bunch of people in this movie who love Justin Theroux. Shout out The Leftovers. This movie is very. It is super plot heavy, but at the same time not. So this is what a Google found synopsis does to describe the movie. A dark-haired woman is left amnesiac after a car crash. She wanders the streets of Los Angeles in a daze before taking refuge in an apartment. There she is discovered by Betty, played by Naomi Watts, a wholesome Midwestern blonde who has come to the City Angels seeking fame as an actress. Together, the two attempt to solve the mystery of Rita's true identity. The story is set in a dreamlike Los Angeles, spoilt neither by traffic jams nor smog. That actually is a pretty good description of kind of the basic premise of the movie. It starts out with a big car. Well, okay, let me back up. Just in the case of spoilers, I'll start with like kind of the overarching aspect of the movie is that it's basically David Lynch's Wizard of Oz. Wizard of Oz. If you know anything about David Lynch, it's that the Wizard of Oz is like the most defining core central movie and kind of thesis to his entire life. One of like his most famous quotes is that he never goes a day without thinking of the Wizard of Oz. And this movie definitely is a huge reflection of that. Specifically, in that last line, the story is set in a dreamlike Los Angeles. You'll see that there's kind of this whole duality to this movie kind of being it's kind of the reverse Wizard of Oz, because you kind of see the dream magic land first, and then the curtain gets pulled back in a big way, and you see kind of the real events, and you kind of get you finally draw these parallels about the people in real life, you know, representing the dream and stuff like that. But anyway, this movie is hard to just like go talk about the main plot and break it down like DB did so with Blue Velvet. So I'm just gonna kind of go scene by scene in a little bit in a way, and mainly kind of just talk about kind of the bangers.
Hell
which
yeah.
is pretty much all of the scenes. So this movie, I blind bought the 4K Criterion of this movie, and I want to say I think this was the first. Well, no, that's not true. I watched Eraserhead first, and then I watched Elephant Man in like English class in high school. So those were my Lynch experiences before this. But this is kind of the first, I guess you could say, Hollywood Lynch movie that I had seen. I had watched Twin Peaks though before, so I had enough background. But so I blind bought the 4K Criterion and whatever, and the first scene, it opens up to this very impressively edited like jitterbug competition, and it's just very bright lights and swing music, and I don't even know how to describe how it's edited. It's like an Adult Swim short where like the people are kind of like clipping into each other. I don't even know.
That's a great way to put it, though, because it's very uneasy to me, and that's exactly how Adult Swim, when they do their fucking late night weird ass shit, it always feels uneasy to me.
Yeah, it's just an insane opening. I remember watching that, and because I was a big nighttime Adult Swim nerd, and it kind of made me think of those type of animations like Off the Air or whatever. I was just like immediately I think I was like laying down, and I think I like not stood up, but I got up on the couch because I was like, it's like that gamer position where you like lean forward. The movie activated that for me.
Nice.
So then you see that it's very like, this is very esoterically edited because you have like shots of like Naomi Watts' face kind of like fade in, and there's a lot of quirky editing things in this movie for sure. And after this whole jitterbug competition, it sets up that Naomi Watts' character won this competition in her whatever small Midwest town, and this gave her big opportunity to move to LA and become an actress. And she gets dropped off by like, it's like I don't even know if those are her parents or like her grandparents or something.
They're her fucking skinwalkers of old people, man. I don't know who the fuck they are.
They're just these old people that are like, they're like comically over the top, stereotypical, like happy grandpa and grandma, like dropping you off at the airport. And it's just like a weird, it's the acting in this movie and the direction is very bizarre. It has that air of, I guess I should have brought this up earlier. I should have just said this, but this movie was originally written as a spin-off story idea for Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
This movie, so it came out in 2001, so Twin Peaks had already been long canceled or long not returning.
Yeah.
But I don't know when he had actually kind of written this, but I'm assuming it was while he was working on Twin Peaks actively. But yeah, it was supposed to be a spinoff for Audrey's character, and you can kind of see it is like Blue Velvet being kind of proto Twin Peaks. This is like future post Twin Peaks because you have the beautiful women, the diner, the kind of. It's weird because it paints LA like they said in a dreamlike state, and it is almost this kind of like perfect caricature of LA, kind of no grime, no seediness, no like underlying vibes until kind of a few scenes coming up. But you can see kind of the heavy Twin Peaks DNA, and especially in some of the acting direction, there's like that very weird, almost wooden, like purposefully wooden acting, I guess is how I would describe kind of Lynch's style for a bunch of things. And it is, I mean, especially Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks' whole thing is kind of being that like, it's like almost satirical, but it plays itself so earnestly that you take it earnestly. It's I don't really know how to describe it, but I know that's just one element of Lynch that really sticks to me, is how he directs. And there's so much behind the scenes footage of him directing actors, and you'll see that he's like very direct in his directions, but vague at the same. Like he'll just go up to an actor and he'll say, "Play this like you're in a dream," and then he'll like walk away. So it's very fun. Yeah, very based.
Twin Peaks is like, you kind of said it. It's like, but like to me, Twin Peaks always felt kind of like soap opera-ish, like a satirical soap opera to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then with Mulholland Drive, you kind of get some of that vibe, but it also feels just like people are in a dream, which they are. So it's pretty fucking brilliant.
Very dreamlike. And weirdly enough, I don't even think it's his most dreamlike movie, but I'm sure we'll talk about that a lot later. But anyway, so you have Laura Herring's character. She's in a limo. She's some big shot, fancy actress, presumably. Gets in a car crash from... Dude, also, David Lynch has a lot of, like, driving scenes. I swear, he has so many... I feel like he has a lot of movies where it's just like that, where the camera's, like, mounted on the front headlights or whatever, and the car's, like, making turns or whatever.
Just
so there's this car crash, and...
The best one's in Lost
Oh,
Highway.
yeah.
Just fucking wait for that one.
Oh my god! I could guess Lost Highway can deliver on that. So Laura Herring character gets in this car crash. She's very like beat up, but also not for how kind of intense the car crash shot is. And she kind of like crawls away and starts walking in a direction, and she ends up kind of hiding out in this like random lady's apartment in LA. This kind of like little cheeky community apartment, and there's some red-haired woman that is kind of packing up, and she watches her leave, and she kind of like ducks in her apartment. Robert Forster has a small little cameo in this. He's like the detective that shows up at the crash scene and kind of recognizes that somebody is missing.
It's so weird. Him and Billy Ray Cyrus showing up in this movie.
Yeah, the Billy Ray we will get to that. That cameo is hilarious. But yeah, Robert Forster has a very small moment in this, which I will never be mad at seeing Robert Forster. I'm very glad he was included in Twin Peaks as well. So anyway, so Naomi Watts' character finally shows up to LA. Her whole thing is she's going to stay at her aunt's old apartment because her aunt's apartment because her aunt is a movie producer working, out of state or whatever. So she's letting her crash there, and then that ends up being the same apartment that Laura Herring's character is staying at, and so you get this weird interaction where like Laura Herring's character is like using the shower, and Naomi Watts is coming in, and she sees her in the shower, and she like gets startled, but she gets more startled that like she scared Laura Herring versus like being scared that there's just like a random person in her aunt's apartment. So she's taking it very like face value, like, oh, this is my aunt's friend or whatever. Like it's very, very chill, which maybe this is just kind of how the time period was at 2001 also, but I feel like it's a very like laid back reaction for just like running into a stranger using a shower, so it's just kind of, you'll see in the whole like first part of this movie, which is most of the movie, is that there's not a lot of like negativity, I guess. Like everything seems super, like we'll keep saying, dreamlike, and it is this very like fictional wonderland version of LA that Lynch eventually juxtaposes later on. And I'm probably talking about these scenes out of order too, because it's kind of there's a lot of different things going on
because it's David Lynch.
Yeah. So and then it cuts into this scene, this diner scene, where this dude, and I don't know this character actor's name either, but he's in Twin Peaks: The Return also.
Yes.
At some point, and he's just that weird dude. He has like very wide eyes, like his eyes are kind of like far apart, like a fish.
Patrick Fischler or something, right?
Yeah, probably. But so he's sitting in a diner with like his therapist or psychiatrist or something, and I think, right, it's a psychiatrist, or maybe, I don't know. He's sitting across with somebody, and he's talking to him about this dream he had about this diner, and he sets up this scene about like the therapist was there and looking scared, and then he felt an evil presence coming from near the diner, and he went to investigate it and like saw a horrible face and like woke up from the dream and like died and woke up from the dream, and so the therapist like kind of chilly gets up and starts like reenacting how he was as described in the dream, to kind of like lead him to face whatever this kind of innate fear is or evil thing he kind of feels about this diner. And so probably the most iconic scene in the movie is where they then go out of the diner and walk to where he thinks this evil presence is coming from, and it's this very super tense, super well shot kind of lead up to a very iconic jump scare moment where this like trash hobo just like slides out. And it's really it is insane too, because like on future it's kind of a meme in like future rewatches. Like,
yeah,
I feel like I'm still like engaged in the scene just because of how well paced it is and how tense it is, but at the same time you just know like what the trash hobo king looks like, so it's like kind of funny to me now. But very
I
good
think it's
scene,
one of
very
the
good scene.
yeah, it's one of the best jump scares I think of all time. It's so effective because it kind of keeps you on your toes for the rest of the movie, especially that first watch, because you never know what's around any corner, and there's a lot of shots that kind of
Mhm.
linger and kind of make you wait to see what's around a corner, and nothing ends up happening. That's literally the only one in the entire movie, but incredibly effective. Also, shout out that the actress that played the hobo is Valak in The Nun.
Oh, the
So
nun. Yeah,
Oh,
that's
really? Oh,
right.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
yeah, so shout out Valak. Just so we know, we got 5 minutes left.
Oh shit. Okay, I've been wasting a lot of time. Um,
It's speed run the last bit.
yeah, so there's this movie is wild. So whatever. Another standout scene is the Naomi Watts's kind of audition scene,
Oh,
um,
so good.
where it's her and I don't know the older
Yep.
actor or whatever, but it's awesome because you see her practicing the scene with Laura Herring, and it's very like kind of they treat it like it's super cheesy dialogue, and then she goes to the audition, and it becomes this super intense, like super close back and forth between her and this like older guy that she just met, and she like gets super handsy during the audition to like play it all up, the sexuality of the scene, and it's just like it's again because everything is a fantasy. It's like, oh, she goes into the audition and she just nails it and like does this and gives this insane performance, and that's definitely one of the standout Naomi Watts scenes. Um, and then you have Justin Theroux, who's like this director that basically loses control of his movie because of this weird, like, shady organization. So you start getting these hints of like a darker element to the movie. But you'll see that all these scenes are basically to set up Naomi Watts is basically like coping hard about her real life. So she like creates this Wizard of Oz dream world scenario where like the director she wanted to be in the movie was in and got rejected is secretly like he's a cuck. Like he goes home and Billy Ray Cyrus is fucking his wife. He has no control
You
over
heard that
his
right.
movie. He has no control over his movie. There's like this shadow organization that is telling him who he needs to cast and like everything he needs to do. So he like is basically portrayed as this like weak loser, and you just see his life kind of spiral, which is very funny. Just because Justin Theroux is great in anything, and he gives such a good energy. And then you have this scene where you see this assassin randomly like chumming it up with this like journalist dude, and it's whoever that journalist dude actor is, he's amazing. But you see this like goofy assassin that he goes to eventually kill this guy, and like the whole hit goes wrong. Like he accidentally fucking shoots the receptionist in the ass in the other room, and then he's like trying to choke her out. She's not going down, and then the fucking janitor sees him choking her out. So it's this very like weird, played for laughs, like goofy assassin scene, to juxtapose that Naomi Watts' character basically wants to put out a hit on Laura Herring because she used to love her, and then Laura Herring started dating her director and got the part she wanted, so she had this like intense jealousy, so she hires a hitman to kill her. But in her fantasy, the hitman is kind of a dunce, and she's probably like coping that he doesn't actually accomplish the hit. But I'll say the true kind of standout scene in the movie is when it all finally flips and the curtain of the fantasy gets pulled back, and it's the Silencio Rebecca Del Rio
Oh,
scene,
incredible scene.
in which Laura Herring and Naomi Watts go to this kind of like club. And this weird, he's basically the Wizard of Oz magician, comes out saying, there is no band, nothing is real, it's all an illusion. If you think it, you can hear it. So then he's like, oh, you can hear, the oboe playing, and then you hear like an oboe come in, and this like, basically this whole scene is to pull back the curtain of the movie, and that everything you just watched is just like a fantasy, it's not real. Everything's an illusion. And then Rebecca Del Rio comes out to sing this song. I don't even know what is the song's name. Silencio. I'm sure it's probably
I
just called
believe
Slow
it
Tears.
is.
Yeah, I think so.
Beautiful, beautiful song. It's so encapturing that every time I watch this movie, during this scene, I like forget that it's technically supposed to be an illusion. She's not supposed to actually be singing, and you just like get so encaptured by it, just like the characters, and you get great shots of Laura Herring and Naomi Watts kind of like reacting to this, and it's kind of the emotional climax of the movie, and they're both crying, and like you as the audience member are just like getting welled up in emotion just because of how good the performance is. But pretty much after this scene, you get the other half of the movie, or the other part in the movie, where you start seeing the real life versions of everything, and how Naomi Watts' character is so like depressed and her life sucks, everything's bad. You get the exact opposite view of LA, which is like classic David Lynch now, being like LA is actually kind of a trash hole, steals your dreams, fucks you over, hellscape land. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of this movie. You could go on forever, but I guess what are your guys' kind of main takeaways from the movie?
Well, we actually technically out of time, but I'm going to extend it for a couple more minutes because fuck it, I run this show. And if need be, I'll take it out of Inland Empire. But in terms of Mulholland Drive, I think this movie is an absolute masterpiece. It is definitely one of my favorite movies of all time, top 10 for sure. I think it's just brilliant. I think what he's managed to do here, like the performance from Naomi Watts in particular in this movie, the fact that she didn't win an Oscar for it is just insanity. She's so fucking good. The fact that this movie didn't win all the Oscars is a whole other story, but yeah, it's just an incredible film. But I could see kind of why I didn't, because it is basically telling Hollywood how fucking shitty and scummy it is. So that makes sense to me. Shout out Justin Theroux, of course. We love Justin Theroux here at An Hour to Kill. He is a prime top tier talent. I love that he wanders around at the golf club too and just smashes things. Like that's great, man. That's so fucking awesome. Jump scare scene, great. We talked about that. Oh, how about the cowboy? Fucking shout out the cowboy, man. Like we didn't talk about him.
Random guy. There's a lot of themes. There's so many layers to this movie that I could spend 4. You probably spend 4 hours deep diving.
Easily.
So.
No, 20
I mean,
minutes.
everything from Laura Herring wearing her wig, and just like, oh my god. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say 20 minutes is just not enough to discuss this movie. It's plain and simple not. There's so many great fucking YouTube videos I've watched on this movie that go for hours on it. But I'll wrap it up there. Just an incredible movie. Damon, go ahead. Give us your thoughts on Mulholland Drive.
I'm with you all the way. It's top 3 Lynch for me. It teeters between 2 and 3 and 1 because because of Elephant Man and Blue Velvet. But I just, again, all the layers that are completely in there that we haven't even fucking touched on. And this really does feel like Lynch hitting his stride with the surrealism and the weird dreamy imagery and tonally dreamy and weird, and just everything that he's known for. This is the epitome of what he does. This is, if you ever wanted to introduce Lynch at this stage of Lynch, like this period, this is the movie you got to do it with. And the one thing about this film that I completely regret, and I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but there's an 1.5-hour pilot that a lot of the footage in this movie is from, that he shot, that was that was passed on by ABC for the show, because Mulholland Drive was supposed to be a show. So an hour and a half for this pilot. Yeah, so an hour and a half of this movie, or of what we've seen, this is a 2.5 hour movie. An hour and a half of that is actually from that pilot, from my understanding. But I've never seen it. It's all recut and recontextualized, and there's added scenes. But I've always wanted to watch it in that context, just to see how different it is. And I get the you mentioned it being a spinoff for Audrey Horne. It 100% makes fucking sense. It would be Audrey's character.
Oh yeah.
Oh, definitely.
I think the fact that this guy, he had this as a TV show pitch basically for Twin Peaks, didn't work out. He recontextualizes this entire thing into a movie and makes one of the greatest films of all time. Wild. And it just shows the fucking talent that David Lynch has, and how he was just firing on a different cylinder with this one. Just an incredible movie. We're going to move on though, but I'll give final thoughts. Damon, anything else quick?
Watch it.
Yes, great movie. Mokey, your favorite movie? Any final closing remarks about it?
I fucking love Naomi Watts.
Oh god, yeah, bonk. Her and fucking Laura Herring together, bonk. And great
And
actresses.
she almost quit the industry. This movie hit for her.
Yeah,
Naomi.
I mean, I don't blame her, man. I'm glad she stuck around though. Great actress and definitely one of my favorites. All right. We're closing the curtain. Silencio is here and we need to move on. We broke the rule, but that's okay. For Lynch, I'll break a couple rules. I don't mind. That's Mulholland Drive in the books. We've got one more movie to talk about. And, I would love to give like a nice plot by plot breakdown of this one. But my very first note for Inland Empire is what the actual fuck? Inland Empire released December 6, 2006, starring Laura Dern, Jeremy Irons, and Justin Theroux. Here's the best synopsis I guess we can give. An actress begins to adopt the persona of her character in a film. Her world becomes nightmarish and surreal. Fun fact, marketing executives were so puzzled by this film that they did not know how to promote it. They eventually chose the tagline, A Woman in Trouble, based on David Lynch's sole explanation of the film as a mystery about a woman in trouble. Sounds about fucking right to me.
Sounds about Lynch.
Yeah, this is with Eraserhead as like pure heroin Lynch. Like you're just getting into the black tar Mexican heroin. What the fuck is going on here? Good luck figuring out this movie your first watch. After a couple of watches, you might be able to start to slowly piece some things together and figure out what he's going for. But yeah, this one's just a fucking wild ride. David Lynch scores this movie himself, which I find interesting, and he does a really good job at it. A lot of really good little music here and just good stuff. I mean, we'll start with the bunnies. What the fuck, man? What's going on with these rabbits? They're creepy as hell. Which, by the way, Naomi Watts is playing one, and I think Laura Herring's playing one too.
Laura Herring,
yeah. So they're both playing one.
They both
Actually,
are.
I think there's a short too based off of this, which I haven't seen. But yeah, like what the fuck, man? You kind of brought it up in the last thing we were talking about, Mokey, but somehow Mulholland Drive, the one about dreams, isn't the most dreamlike movie. It's fucking this one. This entire movie just feels like a bad nightmare acid trip that you don't know again what's going on, like, and it's funny too because I've seen this movie 3 times now and I feel like and I don't know if this is on purpose, but it almost exactly at the 1 hour mark is where things just start to go off the deep end. And this is a 3-hour movie, but like that first hour, you kind of right at the end of that first hour, she goes into the house, and when she goes in the house, it's just we're in a fucking literally a completely different reality now. Fucking just wild. But yeah, Laura Dern, great here. Justin Theroux, rock stars as always. Absolutely. And Laura, I think Lynch very famously was campaigning for Laura Dern to get an best actress nomination for this movie by being on the side of the road in LA with a cow and a sign over it saying, vote for Laura Dern. Oscar. It didn't work, but shout out David Lynch for trying, man. How about the greatest cameo of all time, William H. Macy in this movie?
Oh, so fucking awesome.
Him. No, the Terry Crews is the even more wilder pull. Terry Crews has a one single line in the movie, and he sits there as a homeless guy for like a very good scene, mind you, but not because of him.
It's a great scene, but I don't know if you've watched. I'm sure you've probably maybe paid attention on your second watch, you guys, but the look on his face during that scene is great too. He's like, what the fuck is she back?
No, yeah, he is hilarious. His face is so funny.
It's so fucking good. But yeah, no, William H. Macy and him. And speaking of, since we're passing out all our rest in pieces today, Harry Dean Stanton's hilarious in this
movie. Man, he's fucking awesome.
Oh my god, he is.
I just love how he's just fucking going around mooching money off the entire set.
And chain smoking like everybody does.
Like that's what I love about Lynch though. Like his movies are scary, they make no sense, but goddamn, the humor is always there for me, man. Like there's always just something to make me laugh, which I really appreciate. And memes of the campaign aside, Laura Dern, this is a phenomenal performance. This is not an easy role. Like this is not a fucking easy role to do in the least. So you really got to give her full props there. But yeah, like again, and I gotta say, you know, and it kind of referenced this at the beginning, and we talked about it during the Winky's Diner scene with Mulholland Drive. But he makes the scariest, the most mundane shit scary. There's that one scene about like, what is it, 2 hours into the movie, where you just got Laura Dern walking towards the camera, and you get this like fucking demonic jump scare of her appearing really fast and this kind of twisted look on her face. Like, why is that scary? But it is. It's terrifying, right?
That scene is terrifying. I forgot about that. I forgot because my rewatch was I saw it once in theaters because I got lucky to see it. And then this past week was my first rewatch, and I forgot about that scene. I remember the phantom jump scare at the end.
Oh yeah.
But I forgot about that, and the walk up scared the fuck out of me for a second.
It's good, man. Like that. Like I think the fucking Winky's jump scare is incredible in the way it sets up the rest of the movie. But that one, man, that's an effective one too. It gets you. It's so good. The random musical in the middle of this movie, man. Everybody's doing anything now. Come on. Like, it's a great scene. Like, you're literally watching this movie and you're like, it's so hard to take your eyes off it, and yet you're having trouble processing it, what's going on. It's so good. Shout out the fucking stupid gif of Justin Thoreau storming into the room being ruined for me. That scene being ruined, you know, I just laugh like an idiot now every time I see that scene.
It's just because the angle that he gets right
So
up to
good.
the camera.
Oh,
That's so good.
Just all the extreme close-ups. Oh my
the extreme
God.
I guess
close-up,
that is
what's the actress's name who's at the very start, the Russian one?
Grace Zabriskie.
Yeah, like
from
the
Twin
fucking
Peaks.
close-ups. Yes, the close-ups on her face in that too are just horrifying. And it's not her fault; it's just the fucking close-ups.
It's
good to mention that this movie was very intentionally filmed on a handheld camera.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's his
that
first
David-
digital. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
David Lynch operated himself, and I think that was the main reason why it's never got like upscale treatment too, just because it's literally filmed in a
I don't
kind of
think
like
you
an objectively dog shit format.
I always wondered like why that was his first foray into digital. Was you went and got like an HPX 200 that was already 10 years old and just shot on that? What the holy hell?
There's a document, there's a picture of how the process of them doing the 4K restoration of it, of kind of like the timeline. I think David Lynch drew it himself. It's like a little El Dorado roadmap of how they transferred it. But I'll try and find it and I'll send it.
Yeah, that would be great.
I need to see
But
that.
I mean, yeah, like, and then you know, you kind of you make it all the way through this movie, which again, it's phenomenal. I cannot say how much I love this movie, even if I maybe understand 10% of it if I'm lucky. But you make it all the way to the end, and then you get the most batshit credit sequence I've ever seen in my entire life. It's incredible. Again, the song is fucking banging. You've got fucking lumberjacks. Laura Herring's there for some reason. You've got monkeys dancing around. I'm sound like I'm making shit up, but I'm not. This is the fucking credit
He
sequence.
loves his monkeys.
It's all like one take. Also,
It's one take. You get this great dance sequence. What's that?
I said, is it one take? I'm trying to think now.
If it's not one take, it very much he did a good job at disguising it because it certainly feels one take. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at that image now, like Jesus Christ. Yeah, this fuck me. I don't know, man. Like I mean, I think this is the perfect example of a movie that I don't feel like I need to fully understand to fully appreciate, and I might even appreciate it a little bit less if I fully understand it. Whereas with Mulholland Drive, I think there's a clear kind of path to where the movie goes and where it takes you. And once you realize that and you look out for those things, it's like, oh yeah, okay, like this is a dream, like this is their idealized version of Hollywood. Here, man, I have no fucking clue. I'll skip it over to one of you guys first. Whoever wants to take it first, go ahead and talk about Inland for a bit because I don't know, my mind's mush.
I'll jump in. Just to kind of hammer some points you made. For me, especially on the second rewatch, everything from that blue room with her and Thoreau kind of doing it, and from that point on, because I think the next scene, if I remember correctly, I think the next scene is she goes to the table reading and sees herself there. and that's where it just fucking goes off the rails. And to your point, Laura Dern, I mean, she's an actress, she's a battered housewife, she's a hooker, she is phenomenal in this to carry all three of those while probably also not knowing what the fuck is going on in the script. It blows my mind, and I will say, like, if anybody watches it, just get past the digital look of that bad camcorder, because that actually is why I didn't watch it to start. I just was like, what is Lynch doing? It's like a student went and pulled a bunch of favors from his rich dad and got all these actors in his student film, and then you finally watch it, and his camera work is so interesting. He has the voyeuristic, like, framing completely up close to people and in the conversation with them, and then you cut away and you're locked off at traditional over the shoulders and coverage. You're like, what the fuck is going on? It's he loves his shows within shows, like his Rabbit show and his soap opera in Twin Peaks. And you're right. I really feel like this is some kind of spiritual successor or in the same universe as Mulholland Drive, because especially Laura Herring showing up at the end, but there's just too many similarities, except this is Mulholland Drive on acid, which I didn't think was possible.
Yeah, the end credits bringing the Lynchverse all together. We're just combining everything now, baby. Mokey, I'm gonna toss it over to you, because I do remember I asked you in a DM, do you understand this movie any more second time? And you said yes. So I'm curious. I want to hear first of all your overall thoughts, but give me your interpretation on this movie. I'm genuinely curious.
So at a base, this movie is just like a masterpiece in the vibes. I'm very vibes oriented. I don't need plot. I can watch abstract whatever bullshit. If the vibes are there, I will be engaged. And this movie is pure vibes. It's funny. It's terrifying. It's weird. It's just so many things. And I think the handheld cam look works for me in a very big way, because it has that. It does have that almost like home movie-esque thing where it's almost like it looks almost like documentarian at the same time as like actually like a movie, you know? So I think that kind of element works for me. But
I think it took like 20 minutes for me to get over it. And then after 20 minutes, I was like, okay, we're good.
Yeah, I was about the same. I think about 30 or so. I was like, oh, all right, I'm
and I think it's because Damon said the camera work, and Lynch was pretty much, I think he was the main camera operator. He was just, walking up to them and filming them. But yeah, just the camera work and the movement and stuff. It's all very interesting, because it's not the typical norm for a 3 hour long David Lynch movie. That cannot be understated, that this movie is 3 hours long of David Lynch. And it's his like most out there movie. But I guess if I had to like do a very quick synopsis, is that there's kind of like three main characters. And so the movie starts off not even with Laura Dern or anything. It starts off with this random, you're in like ancient, like old Poland. And there's kind of this whole element of the movie about this like Polish couple. This girl like cheated on her husband, who's a very powerful like Polish gangster or something. And the whole movie, there's basically these three elements. So you have this, they call her the Lost Girl in the credits, and she's this Polish woman that like cheated on her husband, and then she got cursed or something. And so it's all about this like ancient curse kind of propagated by this weird Polish figure called the Phantom. And then there's a bunch of parallels between Laura Dern's character, who is married to this Polish dude who apparently has a lot of connections, and he's not one to piss off. So there's this whole like potential affair element when she starts working on this movie with Justin Theroux, that she's gonna hook up with him and cheat on her husband. And it's a parallel to the Polish girl. And then Laura Dern and Justin Theroux's characters are making a movie that is this supposedly cursed movie because they tried to make it way back in the day, and there's a murder and something, whatever. So Laura Dern's character from the movie is like kind of the third element of the movie. And so basically, like DB said, there's a scene of them in the prop house, the prop set house for their characters, supposedly having their affair. And then this is kind of when Laura Dern, the actress, like becomes her character from the movie they're filming, and so you kind of get this perspective that now you're like in the TV reality, and then you keep coming back to these shots of the lost girl, the lost Polish girl, like in a hotel or something, watching the television, and that's like where the show within a show element DB was talking about comes in. And it's just it's very weird. So it kind of the movie kind of juggles between the elements of like the lost old Polish girl, Laura Dern, the actress, and Laura Dern's in-universe character, the movie that the actress is filming. And it just becomes this whole blurred reality lines, and there's this whole element of like this curse, showing up, and because there's a bunch of parallels between like the movie character is also having an affair, like cheating on her husband, and Laura Dern, the actress, is cheating on her husband, and the Polish girl cheating on her husband. So it's kind of like I guess you could call it like three timelines, and it's also there's a huge element of non-linearity in the movie. A bunch of the characters talk about like, I was thinking of something and it may have happened tomorrow, but it also may have already happened. And so there's a bunch of that. And it's fucked up. Nolan wishes he can make a movie as non-linear. I'm sorry to like kind of slander Nolan on your own show, but he wishes he could make a movie this non-linear. But anyway, movie is great vibes. I just want to shout out the homeless scene. With that, whoever that actress is that plays the homeless woman that basically comforts Laura Dern as her like TV universe self dies, and she like pulls out the lighter and she's like, "Oh, it's okay. Like you're just dying. Like I'll give you light now." That scene, I was like almost crying. I forgot like how kind of like emotional that gets me. And then David Lynch kind of wrote a bunch of music for this movie. And so he has this one song called Polish Poem that it plays at the very beginning and the very end of the movie. And that song is just probably the most beautiful, and with the shots accompanying it, probably the most beautiful moment David Lynch has in a movie for me. I forgot how like overwhelmed emotionally it is, even though you just spent 2 hours and 50 minutes not knowing what the fuck is going on in the scene, and the song comes on and it just grounds you. And it's just like, you're just overcome with this sense of like, I get it. Like I don't get it, but I feel it. Like I feel you. I understand. It's a beautiful. So
it's so good. I can't recommend this movie enough. It's a hard ass, 3 hours Lynch. You don't know what the fuck's going on, but if you're even remotely interested, you got to give this a go. All right, we're gonna wrap it up a little bit early because we went over Mulholland, but I'm gonna toss over final thoughts, Damon, on Inland Empire.
To your point, Mokey, it doesn't have a plot, but but it has a story. Several stories if you really think about it, and if you're dabbling in Lynch, definitely don't do this one first. I think we'll get your way down the line and then get to it, because on second watch, I really did find more about it that I was able to kind of put together in the same way that you did, Moke, and and it's crazy. There's stuff we haven't even covered that permeate through all three movies, and how Lynch is super hypersexual too, and we haven't even dove into that. And there's other elements to Lynch that we haven't dove into. So that being said, if you're going to check out Lynch, definitely don't check this out first, but definitely check him out. He's a brilliant fucking crazy bastard, and his movies aren't for everyone. But if you're like us and you get into them, I think you'll eventually get into this one just as much.
Yeah, don't start this one. Start with Eraserhead. Mokey, thoughts from you?
Yeah, David Lynch is the motherfucking goat. He's easily in my top 5 directors, and everything I've seen from him, I just absolutely love. He's just right in the fucking wheelhouse of like strange and esoteric, but like sincere. I think it's the sincerity that gets me the most. There's just some, I don't even know how to describe it. But an element of everything he makes that just really touches me in like this weird emotional state. So I still have a few things to check out from him, which I'm very excited to, and I'm glad it's always there. I very much want to rewatch The Return because I've only seen it once, so I always have that to go. So
Well,
yeah,
we're
he's
gonna
great.
we're gonna get Damon to watch The Return, and when he does, I'm sure we'll all be back here for another episode talking about Twin Peaks.
Might be the only Lynch I haven't seen.
You're
It's
gonna
a lot of
so good.
Lynch, and you have so much content.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
You have more
think-
Lynch to watch than I do, technically.
You think 3 hours for Inland Empire? Try an 18-hour Twin Peaks. That's what you're
oh
getting.
fuck! I'm so
All
ready.
right. We're going to stop it there. Yes, we did go slightly over the timer today. You can email me at anhourtokill.gofuckyourself.com if you'd like to complain. For Mokey and Damon, we all agree David Lynch is a fucking genius. He is in my top 5 of all time as well. So if you've never watched a David Lynch movie, please check him out. I mean, yes, I would not start with Inland Empire, Mulholland Drive, but start wherever you want, man, and just watch some good fucking cinema. Again, for Damon and Mokey, thank you so much for joining us. It was lovely having you on, Mokey. We'll see you again real soon, actually. And Damon, until the next time, bye-bye, guys.
Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Peace.